that's when it hit me. I went from Western Sydney to New York City. In a year and a half, I went from $1,000 in my bank account to millions of dollars in my bank account in that space of time. And it just made me realize this is going to be a little bit of a controversial one for some of you that are new in business. You might not want to hear this, but for anyone wanting to get in business, if you need to have one personal attribute or skill, it's the late nights, you're in your ad account, you're trying to get your ads to convert better and it's just not working. And you really, really feel like quitting and giving up. It's 1:30 a.m. You know, you got to wake up at 7 a.m. You've got not much time to sleep. It's a never ending balancing act that everyone in business is trying to find. That might work for a week, might work for 2 days, it might work for a couple of weeks. But that is a recipe for disaster. And dreams do come true and it can happen to me. We see people that have started their dream business and they've made $1 million or $10 million in their first year, like we did with Happy Skin Co. That can never happen to us. Like those people that had their dreams come true, they won some imaginary lottery that we weren't invited to enter. Regardless of how good you are at marketing, if you don't find the right product, then nothing else matters. What is your 3-step formula for identifying a winning product? The first step is... Guys, we've got a different episode coming at you this week. We're going to be talking about the 3 steps to e-commerce success in 2024. Now, the reason I thought about doing something different this week, it's been a while since I've done a solo podcast. We've got heaps of new listeners now. Yesterday, I did an event with BOA, which for those who don't know is Business Owners app. It's a new app that is changing the game for business owners in Australia. And I did an event with them and it was super successful. Heaps of people attended. It was an online Zoom event. Had a lot of great questions at the end. And I just thought, why am I going to deliver that value to these people and not you guys? So essentially what I've done, I had about a 45-minute chat with Daniel Hakim, the founder of BOA. We had him on the podcast not too long ago. He's also the founder of Cub. And he asked me a series of questions and we had a good discussion around exactly those things I said. So the 3 steps to e-commerce success in 2024. And some of those 3 things we're going to be focusing on for this podcast. Essentially, I'm just going to give you all that information that I went through and shared on that event yesterday. Step 1 is crafting the mindset you need to be successful. So what changes do you need to make in your life inside your head, and practices the perspective shifts that are going to enable you to step into all that success that you've always dreamed of and attract all that money that you've always wanted. Now, remember, your business is always going to be a reflection of you. And I know a lot of the Ecom crowd, they just want to know your best hacks and money tricks. But truly, if you want long-term success, your business is a reflection of you. So I'm going to share some of those biggest changes that you can make that I made that allowed me to completely change my life in the space of a couple of years. We're going to be talking about, again, a massive one for Ecom, how to find the best winning products before your competition. Now, regardless of how good you are at marketing or how experienced you are in Ecom, if you don't have the right product or you find the right product, but it's oversaturated, it's going to be very, very difficult to achieve success. So I'm going to be sharing with you my exact 3-step formula for how you can do that before everyone else. And we're going to be talking about the best marketing channel for startup e-com brands that are working right now in 2024. And the best part is you don't need a massive budget for this. So that's what we're going to be going through this episode. We'll get into it in a second. But if I can, before we get into it, ask for a few favors. If you're watching this on YouTube, could you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? The growth has been really exciting. Really appreciate you guys getting behind me and the podcast. The bigger the podcast grows, as you guys know, the bigger and the better the guests get. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you'd leave me a 5-star review. I'd really, really appreciate it. And by the way, guys, if you hear me clearing my throat a lot, I'm just getting over being sick, so bear with me. But anyway, guys, we'll get into the episode. All right, so jumping into the discussion we had yesterday, the first question, I'll go pretty quickly over this, but there is some new listeners to this that might not have the context around me. So that first question was, you've built Happy Skin Co. and other ventures from the ground up. What motivated you to take the leap into entrepreneurship? Now, the long story short is I had no choice. I wasn't one of the kids that, grew up in school, primary school, high school, selling Pokemon cards or lemonade stands. I never thought I was going to get into business. I thought I'd take the traditional path. I tried uni. I was going to become a lawyer. Very, very quickly, I realized, holy crap, like if this is what my life is going to look like, I want no part of that. I did something heaps random that we won't get into today. I spent 5 years as an actor, just chasing fun, and that was great. But I thought I want to have more control over my life and build something really special, and actually be in an industry where I can get the most out of myself and my potential. So I tried corporate. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to try corporate. I'll climb the corporate ladder. I can still earn like multiple 6 figures a year, and got into that space. And sure, some people earning good money, but literally I'd say 95% of the people in the office hated coming into work. They were living for Friday afternoon. They'd get to Friday lunch, would go out for drinks. And that's when their lives really started. And I thought I didn't want to be one of those people there. And for me, freedom's number one. Like I want to be able to create and live a life without limits. And I've just seen it. You've seen it on the podcast, so many examples of this. And you see other people living their dream lives. Why not me? And I just felt like I was one of those people. And I know a lot of you, the people that are listening to this podcast that are in business or thinking about business, can relate to that feeling like there is more out there for me. Like I'm destined to do something special with my life. And for me, and I know a lot of you guys, normal just was of no interest of me. So that's a little bit about why I kind of got into entrepreneurship. And once I found it, as I said, I didn't always plan on being an entrepreneur. I can tell you I'll be in business for the rest of my life in some way, shape or form. This is me forever, because it's the best vehicle for that expression of freedom for creation and to create the life you want. So I've found business now and I'm not going anywhere. So that's kind of a little bit of context. Now, moving into the mindset part of our conversation, the first question under the mindset piece Daniel asked was, how do you think your mindset has influenced your growth and success of Happy Skin Co? I kind of alluded to this in the intro, but mindset's number one. Now, again, I stress this because I have conversations with the brands I mentor or people applying for mentoring with me all the time. And the Ecom crowd, people looking into getting e-commerce, they see all the success and people think it's a really quick, get rich quick scheme, which it's not, right? You can make a lot of money in e-com really fast, but if you want to be successful, your mindset is the number one foundation that will see you through, not for 6 months, not for 12 months, for 10 years, 20 years, for the rest of your life. So it's been massive for me, but to summarize the major part of my whole mindset revolution that really enabled me to have success was self-belief. Now, self-belief is the number one factor for anyone wanting to get in business. If you need to have one personal attribute or skill, it's self-belief. So you need to find a way to know, not believe, to know everything you see in your head that you want to achieve, you can. All right, next question. What mindset shifts did you need to make to transition from startup mode to scaling Happy Skin Co into a successful brand? Now, there was a lot of mindset shifts. That was a very pivotal part in my life. The probably year and a half, 2 years before I launched Happy Skin Co is when I fell in love with personal development. I started listening to podcasts. I started watching YouTube videos on growth, on mindset, on different business models before I actually found e-commerce. So I think it's really important to change the information coming into your mind, because if you don't have necessarily friends or family around you that are in business, that are having these higher level conversations, how are you expected to learn these things and have that energy rub off on you? So, you know, we all know that classic saying, you'll become the product of the 5 people closest to you. In the early stages of business, you might not have those 5 ultra successful people in your group. So find them digitally, find them online in the form of podcasts, in the form of YouTube content creators, anything like that. Even better, go and find yourself a mentor and they will help facilitate that growth much quicker. But in terms of those mindset shifts that I had to take on personally, the first one is going to sound really obvious, but I'll explain it for you. It was dreams do come true. And it can happen to me. Now, I've always been a kid, even growing up, as long as I can remember, that I had a lot of self-belief. I think that was the way I was raised by my mum and my grandparents. They gave me so much love and so much praise and support that I felt like I could do anything. But even me, that kid that had so much self-belief, I think because I grew up in the southwest of Sydney, in the suburbs where most people kind of just going through the emotions, you do have these big dreams and, you know, you believe these things will happen to you. But even me, I remember when I had that 5 years as an actor, I would be auditioning for these big roles and I'd get really close to the big role into the final 2, and you wouldn't get it because of, you know, some little trivial thing like, oh, your eye color doesn't match the character of the dad or something like that. And I remember taking into those auditions and waiting to hear back, that energy of like, yeah, I'd love this and I really hope it happens, but dreams, like, that's, who am I for my dreams to come true, right? And a lot of us think that, you know, we see people that have started their dream business and they've made $1 million or $10 million in their first year, like we did with Happy Skin Co, whatever it may be. And we feel like that can never happen to us. Like those people that had their dreams come true, they won some imaginary lottery that we weren't invited to enter. But I can tell you that's not the case. I'm just a normal person, a normal kid from the suburbs of Southwest Sydney. There's nothing special about me apart from the fact that I believe I can achieve these things. And the interesting part about this, and I want to tell you this now, because a lot of you guys that are listening, I know you already have successful businesses, but some of you guys are in the early stage and you're just trying to figure it out now. There's a little bit of a catch-22 in the fact of, while we were going through that process of launching Happy Skin Co and working on the business pre-launch, me and my old business partner, George, would go across, we'd do a session, a few hours of work on the business, and we'd go to the park across the road from his house. And we just talk about all these milestones, hitting our first million, getting our first office and warehouse, hiring staff, building out a team, the day we quit our jobs. And because we started to do that, it started to make it feel more and more real. And the stronger my belief could get that dreams do come true and it could happen to me, the closer and closer I got to drawing it into reality. And then once we launched and I experienced the success we did. Now, again, for those of you that are new listeners and haven't heard the Happy Skin Co story, we did $1 million in our first 3.5 months. We quit our jobs after about 2 weeks. We worked out I had to work out a 4-week notice period to my old job. And then I was there 6 weeks after launching. I'm full-time in this business. Like, things can happen really quickly when you get out of your own way. Fast forward a little bit over a year and I'm just literally sitting in Gary V's office, level whatever, in his office, New York City skyline, looking out at Manhattan. And that's when it hit me. Like, I'm a kid. I went from Western Sydney to New York City. In a year and a half, I went from $1,000 in my bank account to millions of dollars in my bank account in that space of time. And it just made me realize life is a game, and it can happen to me. It can happen to anyone listening or watching this. Your life can change. Now, once I started experiencing these little wins, these little dreams come true, now I know to never limit my dreams. So when I'm thinking of that, ideal life in my head or that ideal business I want, I don't cap it at all. And neither should you guys. So aim big, believe that it can happen, and life really can. Funny things can happen when you get out of your own way. I really do believe that. Now, another thing that I want you guys to think about is just piggybacking off my last point. If it happened to me, why can't it happen to you? Why can't it happen to you? It happened to me, just a kid from the suburbs of Southwest Sydney. I was working a corporate job. We put in 20 grand, so 10 grand each to start the business. By the time I did that, I had less than $1,000 in my bank account. Within a few months, it was over $1 million. Crazy. Now, in terms of that, the mindset tool, the biggest thing that I changed in my life, and I've spoken about this heaps before, but I really do put so much of my success down to it, is visualization. Now, I'll do another podcast or another video explaining my process, the way I visualize, because there's a long series of steps. And when I visualize, it's not a 5-minute exercise. It's an hour-long exercise. There's many steps in terms of the way I visualize and deeply feel and experience those things. And once you can let your body experience it, the emotions of achieving your goals, the power in that, is twofold. Now, there's the whole energetic pull of the universe, like attracts like. We've all heard of that. Some people I know, they don't want to believe that. It's a little bit too wishy-washy, airy-fairy for them. I believe in that because I've experienced it. There's that Einstein quote where he talks about that, match the thoughts inside your head. If you live that and breathe that and believe that that's the case, I'm obviously not quoting him verbatim, then your reality can do nothing but match that. I should have researched that quote and got it up so I didn't butcher it. But essentially, he's saying that's physics. The physics of the world is if you put that energy out, it will come back to you. And I've lived that. I've experienced that. Well, I'll do another podcast, as I said, on my visualization process one day. But for those of you who haven't already started, or you're feeling some resistance to that, visualization has completely changed my life. Now, there's a load of different ways you can use visualization. It can be used to draw things into your life, as I just said, to help you achieve your goals. It can enable you to continually step into higher versions of yourself. So while it's great to visualize the successful moments or the milestones, visualizing yourself as that better operator, as a more disciplined person, as healthier, fitter, anything you want, you can use visualization to help you achieve that. You can use visualization to create enormous amounts of motivation and make you feel a positive, energized charge. So there's a lot of great uses to visualization. Even in terms of sports or preparation, visualizing certain things before you do them can increase your performance. There was a study done with basketballers, I think it was in the 90s, early 2000s, where they practiced their three throw. There was 3 different groups of basketballers, and they were practicing the 3-point shots, right? The group there was 3 groups. One actually practiced for a month, every day for a month, and then they came back and did it again. That group saw 24% improvement in practicing. There was the middle group, which did absolutely no practice. They came back a month and did their shooting. They saw 0% increase. The group that visualized them shooting their 3-pointers every day for a month and came back, they saw a 23% increase in their performance. So only a 1% difference between visualizing it and actually doing it. So it's one of the greatest tools that you can have in your arsenal. Now, moving on to the next question. When you face setbacks, what are some of the mental strategies you use to bounce back and stay on course? Now, again, this is a little bit of a mindset or perspective shift that I realized, and it's completely changed my life, is that life is happening for you, not to you. I'll say that again. Life is happening for you, not to you. Now, what that means is all of the challenges, the problems, the curveballs, and the heartbreaks that life throws your way is happening for a reason. And every time you go through something and you feel like you failed or it was a mistake, it's actually a redirection and it's navigating you closer to where you're meant to be. Now, in that is kind of the whole belief of everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer of that. Some people aren't. And there's no proof. I can't point to any physical proof that everything happens for a reason, but it's the way I choose to live my life. Because if I chose to live the life thinking everything is random and I'm in no control, and if bad things happen to me, it's just unlucky, it can be really easy to get down. So I think if you can change that perspective of, number one, life is happening for you, not to you. That includes everything bad and challenging that happens. And then life, like everything happens for a reason. Those perspective shifts were massive ones for me. And then in terms of the mental strategies or the realizations that I've had, and this is going to be a little bit of a controversial one for some of you that are new in business, you might not want to hear this, but I've got to say it because it's the truth. It's a big one. It's business is solving problems and overcoming hurdles. I was literally chatting to our producer, Yui, before that as well, saying the weather's great. I'm still having to fix all these problems, but he's doing it with a smile on his face. Now, I was really surprised in my first year of business, a little bit of rude awakening of how much business is problem solving. And even the most successful businesses, what you don't see behind closed doors is they're fixing problems and overcoming challenges all the time. So if you don't enjoy that, unfortunately, or you don't think you can do that, you're in the wrong game. Business is about problem solving. And then when it gets really hard, and I know so many of you in Ecom can relate, the late nights, you're in your ad account, you're trying to get your ads to convert better and it's just not working. And you really, really feel like quitting and giving up. It's 1:30 a.m. All your friends are in bed. You know, you got to wake up at 7 a.m. You've got not much time to sleep. That's the exciting part when you're in that situation, because when you're in that situation and you make the decision to not give up, that is literally the difference between the people that are successful and they aren't. So when it gets hard and when you want to give up, just think that's when 95% of people do give up. So if you push through, you keep working to find the solution, you're in that 5%, that couple percent that pushes through, and you need to earn the right to be successful. So that's some of the biggest kind of strategies or thought processes I go through when I'm handling these setbacks. Now, another question, this is definitely not something that I've nailed, but it was a question Daniel asked me, was how do you balance staying ambitious with maintaining mental health and well-being? Now, I've at times in, my 7 or so years in business struggled with that. I've pushed my body harder than it could handle because mentally I'm just so focused on my goals. And I've had, as you guys know, some bad like hiatus hernias. I've been run down. I've been burnt out once or twice. So I think it's a never-ending balancing act that everyone in business is trying to find. But I've had a big learning recently is that when you're busiest, when there's the most on your plate, when you're most stressed, you may think that's the best time. You wake up, you start working, you work all day, you eat lunch quickly at 5 minutes at your desk, you keep working till you go to bed. And that's the way out of it. Now, that might work for a week, might work for 2 days, it might work for a couple of weeks, but that is a recipe for disaster. Now, I've learned something and it's only, as I said, I've been in business for 7 years now. It's something that I've only probably fully learned and appreciated. Now, there's a understanding it logically, then understanding it inside your body that I've only learned in the last year is that when you're in those situations and the temptation is to just work all day, every day and not think about anything else, that's when health needs to be the number one priority, because everything else is built off the back of that. Business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So when you're busiest, when you're stressed, make sure you're taking your 45 minutes, have your morning routine, do some physical training. At lunch, get out, get away from your desk, get outside, get some vitamin D, go for a 20, 30-minute walk. And then when you come back and work, you're going to be so much better for it. And then not only that day, you'll be better for it, but sustainably long-term, you're gonna be able to achieve what you want to achieve and work at the levels you want to work at for much, much longer. Just a quick one from me. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'd know that after scaling Happy Skin Co. to over $10 million per year, I spent close to 18 months creating the Viral Brand Builder program, which teaches someone with zero experience how to launch and scale their very own e-commerce brand. With over 100 training videos and direct access to me, including one-on-one calls, you'll be guided throughout the entire process. Now, we already have a bunch of incredible results from students that are making multiple 5 and 6 figures per month. So if you want to learn how to build a business that has the potential potential to completely change your life, then click the link in the description and book in an application call today. Spots are limited as you'll be speaking directly to me. So hopefully I'll chat to some of you soon. But until then, let's get back to the podcast. All right, moving on. So this was a big part of the conversation we had yesterday is, finding the right product. As I alluded to in the intro, regardless of how good you are at marketing, if you don't find the right product, then nothing else matters. You need to find the right product. Now, the question was, Happy Skin Co. has been a massive success with its unique product offering. What is your 3-step formula for identifying a winning product? Now, give a little bit of context around the Happy Skin Co. piece. Obviously, we launched the business over 6.5 years ago. We didn't have a formula then. We were kind of figuring things out as we went. But there's 2 things we did then, and then I'll get into what I do now and what I coach all my brands at Viral Brand Builder to do. Now, all we did back then with Happy Skin Co. was we observed certain trends. We observed certain trends and saw what sort of businesses were having a lot of success. We identified they were beauty. Every year there were beauty brands launching and scaling, and we were seeing those Daily Mail articles. X brand does $5 million in their first year or whatever it may be. And we looked at that, and we there was 2 brands that really, really inspired us. We were pretty early in that DIY beauty space. Obviously, DIY beauty, since when we launched in 2018, has really exploded and is still a very, very relevant niche now. So if you can find something in the DIY beauty space, I still think there's a lot of potential there. Was Bondi Sands and High Smile. Now, I've spoken about this before, so I won't spend too much time on it. Bondi Sands, how did people 10, 15 years ago used to get fake tan? They would go over to their beauty salon, or their beautician would come over, they would set up that tent and they'd do a spray tan. And then what happened? People created like an artificial tan, a fake tan in a bottle, and then people can do it at home. Now, same thing with teeth whitening. How did you used to have to do teeth whitening? Book an appointment with the dentist. It's expensive. It hurts. It's inconvenient. High Smile come along. They gave an at-home teeth whitening kit. So we saw DIY beauty taking a product that's generally done in a salon or clinic setting, creating a product that enables people to do it at home. And that's essentially exactly what we did with Happy Skin Co. And we realized how popular laser hair removal was in clinics. And we thought if we can create a product or find a product that people can do their own IPL or their own hair removal at home in their own pace at their own time, then I think it's going to be a recipe for success. We thought it would take longer to kick off, but as you all know from me explaining the story in the podcast, things happen very, very quickly. Now, in terms of what that 3-step process is for me, now we break it down into the 3 steps. Now, the first step is the winning product criteria, right? And now what I'll do, I'll actually get my editor, a reminder for when you're listening. I'll put this up on the screen so you guys can actually see it. For those listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, obviously most people do listen to audio, but for those on YouTube, you'll get a copy of that. So if you're listening on audio and you want to screenshot it to see it and actually have it in front of you, jump onto YouTube and go to this part of the podcast and you'll be able to screenshot it from there. Now, the first part is like, what is the winning product criteria? So essentially what that means is understanding what to look for, like what makes a product with a lot of potential. So there's a few different points that I get my brands to look at. And when I'm thinking of launching a new brand or launching a new product, I always fall back onto this. Now, number 1 for the product criteria is, does it solve a problem for this current year? So something that's genuinely a problem now. So for example, like washing machines has completely fixed the need for, you remember those old tools that you used to see in old movies where they'd wash clothes on like that wooden thing and they'd wring them out? That solved a problem 80 years ago. Does it solve a problem today? No, it doesn't. So does it solve a problem in this current year at this current time? Or is it a unique product? So a really good example on, is it a unique product? I use this example all the time because it's really easy and everyone understands it. So lamps. We all have lamps in our houses. If you were to launch a lamp brand, does it really solve a problem? Not really. Like not many people don't have a lamp in their house, but 2022, 2023, there was a really probably 12 to 18 month period where those cute little duck light up lamps went super viral. Tons of drop shippers made heaps of money on that product because it was a unique thing. They hadn't seen it before. It generated an emotional reaction. So does it solve a problem today in today's market, or is it a unique product? That's number 1. 2, is there demand for the product without it being saturated? Now, that's a really important one. Obviously, we want to be looking for a product where people are already kind of interested in that market, as I alluded to with Happy Skin Co. Laser hair removal was already a big thing. We knew hair removal was a big thing, but we wanted our own spin on it. So some good ways to check if there is product demand. Now, are there competitors that are already selling similar products and they're doing so profitably? Now, How do we know if they're selling things profitably when we don't obviously have access to their P&L or their back end, right? If you go into their Facebook page and you click page transparency and you look at the ads they're running, if there's any ads on their page that they've been running for 3 months or more, there's a good indication, there's a really high percentage chance that they're running it profitably. Otherwise, it'd be stupid to continue to run it. Now, other things for looking at is their product demand. Is the monthly search volume for the main 3 to 5 keywords at least 10,000 in total? And then are the main keywords on Google Trends, are they out of 50 or are they at least trending up? So when you go to Google Trends, have a look at that. There's a number that gets allocated to a certain search term or a certain product term that you can search. Have a look. Is that trending up or is it above 50? Now, how do we know is the product on the flip side is not saturated? Now, Happy Skin Co, let's use that as a really easy example. We've been around for over 6.5 years. Now, if the main competitors that you have been able to find for that product or similar, have they been trading for more than 3 years? If they've been around like the main competitors for 3 years or more, there's a very, very good chance with the way Ecom works and the way copycats work, that market is saturated. If they're only a year in, 18 months, 6 months, perfect. The market there's a good indication that the market isn't going to be at saturation. And this is probably the biggest obvious one that I can give you guys. Is a product saturated? If it's found in major retailers like Big W, like Kohl's, like Target, Walmart, Officeworks, if they're selling a version of that product in their own home brand, run away, don't go to that product. It's massively oversaturated. Step 3 in our product criteria, are there healthy margins? This is a really important one. You need to be able to sell your product. Now, for people that don't understand e-commerce, to be like, what are you talking about here? That's a ripoff. No, it's not. You need to be able to sell your product for 4 times your cost of goods sold. So whatever it costs you to buy the product from your manufacturer, ship it to either your 3PL or your home, where you're going to dispatch it to your customer. If you can't sell that for 4 times what that cost is, by the time you run your business, you do your advertising, you pay your bills, the margins are going to be too slim. So 4 times COGS at a minimum. Next step, when we're looking at the customer feedback of some of the other brands that we've been able to find, is the majority of the reviews positive on their site as well as third-party review sites as well. If you can go on to the competitors' Instagram pages, their TikTok pages, look at the comments, see if there's any Reddits about that product or that industry, and see is the general sentiment positive. If it's not, then you're probably going to get into an industry where there's a lot of questions around the product. Next step in the product criteria, can content be easily created? Again, we live in a very visual society. Can you easily make content to show how the product is, how it works, and get people excited about buying that? That's a big one. And the second part of that is, in order to create content at bulk, you also get a need to be able to ship that out to content creators, to influencers, to create content on your behalf. If you're a startup brand and it's your first thing, if you're thinking about getting into furniture, it's not going to be a good idea for you. It's going to be very expensive to ship and the logistics is going to be a much bigger challenge. So is it easy to create content and is it easy to ship? I'm just quietly dying over here, but that's all right. And the last one, step 6 in that product criteria, as I said, if you're listening on audio, jump onto YouTube, you'll be able to find it. If you want to copy, is can you add future products to this product, to your brand, to increase AOV and LTV? Now, we'll move on from there. That's step 1, actually understanding what to look for in a good product. Step 2 is actually knowing how to find them. Now, we want to be able to find products before our competitors, obviously. And some people think about, okay, I don't know what product to launch. Product research or product selection in e-commerce isn't you sitting at home thinking, closing your eyes, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Now, sometimes you'll have those genius moments, or some of the best products are you're using something in your life and you think of a way to make it better. If you can do that, that's great. But that's not realistic. That's not scalable. That's not, repeatable for every single person. The best way is to actually look for inspiration, what other people are doing, and get inspired or get just ideas from that. Now, there's a few different ways you can do that. That we do our product research. I'll give you a few here. There's obviously more methods than this, but to keep it nice and succinct, best place that we're going to be able to use to do product research is on TikTok. Now, you search directly on TikTok. There's a couple ways we can do it. Search on TikTok. There's a lot of different terms. You might want to search beauty. You might want to search beauty tools. You might want to search gardening. You might want to search 20% off. You might want to search Black Friday sale. these key terms that e-commerce brands are going to be posting. TikTok is becoming an SEO platform. So if you can search these terms, it's going to show you a lot of different ads or videos that people are running on TikTok. Now, a couple ways that we can do that to take it a step further. Doing it on TikTok organically is a great way to do it. But if you want some other ways, you can go on TikTok Creative Center and you get inspiration from their top ads. Obviously, when we're doing that and when we're doing these search terms, you want to be filtering for most engagement or most shares, likes, whatever, but keep it recent. So over the last 3 months is a good period. We don't really care what trended last year because there's a good chance it's going to be approaching saturation. So another good tool that I kind of break down as part of Viral Brand Builder that you can use to get a little bit more detailed and structured and change your search terms to get really specific and get heaps of great ideas is Sell Account. It's a paid like ad spy that you can use or content spy that you can use. But as I said, like TikTok Organic or the TikTok Creative Center is going to give you a really good amount of products that you can search for and find. As you go through and you see all these potential products, before you spend too much time looking at them, copy the link, put it into your Google Sheet, name of the product, link of it, and then you put a little drop down of the niche. And then it's going to be a really good way to go through all these channels that I'm going to share, put them in there, and then you go through all these marketing, like all these product research tools. You get to your list, you may have 20 potential products to look at, and then we can start digging it down deeper on that. Now, as well as using TikTok, we can obviously use Facebook and Instagram. Now, if you want to use Facebook organically, probably the best place you're going to be able to do that is by going to facebook.com/ads/library, have a play around there. You'll be able to find you can have different search terms and filters and different parameters in order to give you and generate you a whole list of ads that are running. And if people are recently started running ads about these products and you hadn't really seen it before, there's a good chance you're looking at a potential new winning product for the year ahead. Again, if you want to take that further, one of the tools that we use and we teach our brands to use is Big Spy. Same thing as Sell Account. It's just a paid version of that where you can put in more search terms, get more specific and get kind of better data there. But absolutely, you can do that for free as well. And then another one that you can use is something that I recommend to a lot of people that are doing, go straight to the source. Now, you can send a message, go on Alibaba, and people overcomplicate this product research thing, think they always need to be an inventor and create something brand new themselves. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Go to Alibaba, think of the niche that you want to be in, what industry, do a lot of research, find the good manufacturers, send them a message. Hi, I'm an experienced dropshipper. I'm experienced in Ecom. I'm looking for my next product to build a brand around. What products have you launched recently that are just starting to perform really well? And these manufacturers there are incentivized to share with you that data on what products are starting to trend now. You don't want to know what's been your best seller for the last 3 years, what's starting to trend now, what's products that are emerging that are starting to sell really well. And then they're going to give you a list of 5 to 10 products that are starting to sell well now that you can look at and consider. Make sure you run it through the product criteria list that we went through, and then they're going to give you and generate a whole other list of potential winning products for you. So some people be like, why would they share that information with me? If you become a successful customer of them, you making money is them making money. So they're absolutely incentivized to do that. Now, final step of the product research phase is product validation. Now, obviously, most of our listeners are on audio compared to YouTube, so I can't really go through our product validation sheet. But essentially, what we're doing for our product validation is once we've got our list, we've got our product criteria, we know what to look for in a good product. We've used our product research tools. We found a list of potential products. We then take our top, say, 5 to 10 ideas from our master list of potential products, and we run it through our product validation sheet, which is essentially a bunch of data points and research we can do to validate more scientifically, more data-based rather than just gut feel. Does the product that I'm looking at, that I'm considering ordering samples for, potentially building my brand around, does it actually fit, in fact, that product criteria that we looked at in step 1 of the 3-step product research phase? All right, now moving on to the final step of how to build a successful e-commerce brand is that marketing strategy that's working best for startup brands now. Now, the question, let me just get up the question for you guys that I was asked, and I'll start to break down kind of what I shared yesterday on that event. Now, in 2024, brands are killing it using organic marketing. What makes organic marketing so powerful? And can you share some specific examples of content strategies that have worked exceptionally well? Now, The thing about ecom is people are always asking, people are always searching for that silver bullet. But there's bad news. There is no silver bullet. There is no one thing you can do, no one ad you can run that is going to make you 10x your revenue or triple your profit. It's about stacking a bunch of different things. But in that being said, right, there are always going to be opportunities on marketing channels that are over-indexing the value in terms of what it costs you in terms of time or money, in terms of the results you can get out the other side. Now, when we launched Happy Skin Co in 2018, that was influencer marketing. Our first $1 million, I'd say 80% of it was driven off the back of influencers. We can go back even further than that. At one point, email marketing was the most undervalued piece of attention because nowadays we all get probably 20, 30, 40 emails a day. We don't open every email. When email was a newer channel, email open rates were 90, 95, 99%. Then we look at the emergence of Google AdWords. You could get cost per click Google AdWords on actual terms, not branded terms, for 3 cents, 5 cents, 10, 15 cents. So if you can pay 15, 20, even $1 a click through to your website, in that window there where that was before a lot of advertisers came, that represented a lot of good value. In 2024, as I mentioned, organic marketing is just that content channel that works great in terms of the potential for the startup ecom brands that don't necessarily have a big budget to play around in. Now, ecom for scaling, Facebook ads, so Meta ads, Facebook and Instagram is your best platform there, and absolutely is not a dead channel. There's so much sales that you're able to drive there, and it can be a full funnel platform. But if you don't have a big budget when you're starting off, Facebook ads are getting more expensive to run. If you don't necessarily have enough of a budget to test and give yourself the opportunity to fail and learn, it can be really tricky to get your brand off the ground. Now, organic marketing. Now, in terms of a few examples. Now, one of the examples is actually sitting in the room with me I gave yesterday, Yui and Danielle. We've had them on the podcast. If you haven't seen it, go back. Can't remember when it was, a few months ago. Yui and Danielle, they created an electric hot water bottle that they documented the whole journey from 2 years before they even launched to sampling products to behind the scenes, teasing it, not revealing what it was. And part of their story, so Yui's partner, Danielle, has severe endometriosis and she's gone through her own journey in that. So she built a big community talking about those issues and talking to other people struggling with the same things. And they documented that whole journey. They launched, they revealed what the product was. People continue to get around them, and their strategy for organic content is essentially they do a lot of things, but the main thing that they do is they've just documented their journey. And now sometimes when people are going through and they're thinking about, hey, what can I make for my content on Instagram Reels or TikTok this month? How do I think of, I want to post every day. How do I think of 30 different unique ideas every single month? So 365 ideas in a year. That can be really tricky, but some of the best ways and what they do really well. And I encourage you to go on, have a look at what they do. And if you're someone that, experiences endometriosis yourself, you're going to find a really great product for you as well. Is every day you're working for, say, anywhere between 8 to 14 hours a day. If you film your day, if you document your day every day, there is going to be an interesting 60 to 90 second narrative that you can tell. And that's what they've done incredibly well. They have so many videos that have popped off millions of views and millions of views, eyeballs, attention on your TikTok or on your Instagram, converts through to clicks through to your website and purchases. So that's one example of a brand that's killed it. Another one that's had a different approach. She was also on the podcast, one of the brands we've mentored with Viral Brand Builder. Her name is Balkisa, a great entrepreneur out of the UK. She has a business called I'm Proud of You, and she sells the Let It Go journal, which is essentially a mental health prop journal to help people go through their own self-growth journey. She's done a completely opposite strategy. She doesn't really at all focus her face, herself as the founder in the content. And it's all been product-based content. So I know a lot of you guys say, I don't want to be the face of my brand. I'm an introvert. I don't want to, tell my story. I'm not comfortable with that yet. There are other ways to do it, and it's product focus. And the third example that I think is really good, these guys are absolutely crushing it. They're out of the US. They probably have a little bit of a higher production level, so a little bit of a higher budget in that some of the editing is it's really brilliant, to be honest with you, is a brand called Midday Squares. Now, the first two examples I gave, one documenting the journey, that kind of that focus that Yui and Danielle did with Alia Bottle. Then I'm Proud of You. They really did the product focus. And our Midday Squares, it is the founder story, but it's more than that. They're telling a narrative, their brand story. It's David versus Goliath. They are portraying their business journey like a movie. Like, I go in and watch their content and we can't even really purchase their products in Australia. And I'm so bought into their brand story. So check them out. It's very much the founder story, but the brand story, telling a narrative that they're going on, and they've absolutely crushed it. They're selling out, they're beating records of Walmart in terms of new product releases. So, and their biggest channel as well, organic marketing. So massive. Few last points before we wrap up this pod. Now, how do you build a loyal community around your brand? Now, we've seen a lot of initiatives over the last 12, 18 months where people are doing run clubs or they're doing yoga in the park. Those sorts of things are great. But for startup brands where you don't have a lot of customers, it's a little bit more difficult for you to do that until you've been able to build a bigger following. But at the end of the day, building a loyal community, it all starts with one good experience, and then stacking good experiences, touch point after touch point after touch point. So how do you deliver the best experience for your customers or prospective customers with every touch point? That could be on your website, on your live chat, when they comment on your socials, when they ask you a question, when they send you an email, just giving them good experience after good experience, listening to them, showing that you care is going to be a great way to build a loyal community. You can do a lot of damage the other way by going against that. And then another one, obviously, how to build big community. I think one of the easiest ways to do that now in business in 2024 is by having the founder, is by having the team in the content so people can see who they're buying from. Because often with products, yes, we buy products for the utility value, but people also buy products because what it means, what the feeling they get for being a part of that brand. So I think that's really a couple of great ways to build a loyal community. Now, this is a really good question, and it's not complicated. For new businesses with small budgets, what's the best first step to starting organic marketing? Now, let's break it down logically. Okay, what do we need? So really don't need a whole lot of things. We need a phone, iPhone preferably, but any smartphone, a tripod so we can set up your camera to film you. Ideally get some sort of ring light or some lighting. So regardless of if it's good daylight or if it's nighttime, we can have some really clear high content footage, and download CapCut on your phone. That's all you need. And then from there, we just got to build out before we start making content and every day trying to figure it out. Let's build out a bit of a plan. What is your angle? Are you going to do founder style content? Are you going to document the journey? Is it going to be more of a product focused? Are you going to be one of those brands that does a lot of street interviews with customers or people in the street? Build out a bit of a plan at the start. Like anything in e-commerce, it's going to be a test. You'll see what you enjoy doing most. You'll see what gets the best results. Research other brands, get inspiration, model what works, modeling what works, and finding inspiration from other brands that are killing it in organic content is one of the easiest ways you can do that. Put a list of all your different content ideas in a Google sheet. And then when it comes to filming, okay, what one are we going to do? You spend a day, you might film 5 in a day or 10 in a day. Or like what you and Danielle did, you might just want to be, I want to document my day, and you'll go through and build out your organic plan like that. Now, a really good way, and you don't really want to do this every month because you want to be broadening your horizons, but something that I get my brands to do when they're getting stuck for ideas, when they've been, putting out a video every day of organic content and getting stuck for ideas. How do we know what to create next month that is actually utilizing the data of what I've done in the past, taking what's working best, and hopefully do even better next month. Now, this is what I get my brands to do. Now, if you look at the last 30 days of your content, what 3 videos, and this is presuming that you post every day, what 3 videos performed best compared to the rest of the 27? So the rest of the 30 videos that you made, what 3 videos performed best? And then think about what was different about those videos. Was it a certain style? Was it a certain type of filming? Was it a certain pain point you were digging into? Next month, take those 3 best performing videos for your brand, make 5 different variations. Now, some of the best content creators, when they find an idea that works, they churn out that same idea in a slightly different way day after day after day because they know they've got a winning recipe. Do the same for your brand. That'll give you 15 different ideas for content. On the flip side, find 3 of those aspirational brands that you follow that are doing really well with organic content. Look at them relatively compared to the rest of the content. What 3 videos perform better for them than the rest? And then do the same thing. Okay, from those 3 different ideas, make 5 different variations of them. That'll give you 30 new pieces of content. Get to the end of the month, see what worked really well. Then you've had a nice little reset. And we're using the data to push you forward. And it's not always going to work. Maybe one video that worked and you thought you had some good ideas that were different variations of that. It might fail, but that's fine. Failing and testing is part and parcel of e-commerce. Now, last question, and we'll wrap this one up. And this one is a question, obviously, I get asked a lot when I go on podcasts myself. What's the best piece of advice you would give to someone starting their own business? Now, what I would say is don't expect to succeed in the first 3 to 6 months minimum, right? A lot of the best brands that we see today took months, if not years, if not decades in the case of Phil Knight and Nike to become successful. Now, people in ecom are attracted to it because of the speed, because, you get that life-changing overnight success. And I'm not a good example of that because Happy Skin Co was successful very, very quickly. But Happy Skin Co and what I did and what we built was the exception to the rule. If you're going to expect to make $100,000 in your first month or even $20,000 in your first month, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So I'd think if you're going to commit to a new product and build a brand around it, give it at least 6 months. Do everything you can for 6 months to get this brand off the ground, see how much you can grow it. If you've truly tried your best and you've just realized, hey, maybe this product isn't it, it's also a skill to know when to kill a product. But I'd say 90% of people give up way too early than hold on for too long. So that would be my advice there. Also, forget about perfect. If you're launching your website, if you're launching your product, you're launching your packaging, launching all the copy on your website when it's absolutely perfect, you've launched way too late. So there we go, guys. That's 3 of the things I think you can do, like the 3 steps to be successful in e-commerce in 2024. If you guys like this, I'll see what the feedback's like. I can do some more solo episodes, digging into some of more of that e-com stuff as well. I know a lot of you guys follow the podcast because you're in e-com and you want to know what to do to succeed. So I'll mix these in with our other guest episodes from time to time. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode and got value out of it. If you have any questions, hit me up, send me a message on Instagram and we'll chat there. Good luck. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or you got something out of it, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do your friends a favor and share this with them and they can come along on this journey with us. Thanks again and I'll see you next time.